Hey, Pat, it's your agent. I know you wanted to do a simpler Christmas video this year, but we can't disappoint the fans, can we? So I found someone to help you with your Christmas video. Happy New Year!
What? AJ, what did you do?
Patrick!
What? No. It can't be you. I hate you, Denise! I loved you! All the time we spent together! Denise? No! Well, thanks for visiting, Denise.
I never forgot you, Patrick. You always had a special place in my heart.
Special place in your heart? Then why did you dump me for Kevin Glodak?
Well, he had just gotten the new Sega Genesis, which was much more powerful and cooler than the Turbografx. Blast processing, babe!
Dumb Genesis.
Speaking of the Turbografx, I saw in your Christmas video that you got me a nice jacket.
I may have.
Well, where is it?
It's not yours anymore. I got the view because we were dating at the time. But then you took my heart, you tore it out of my chest, threw it on the ground, and you stomped on it. Hope you feel good about yourself. How did you even get a Pat the NES Punk wristband anyway? Those aren't even for sale yet. You know what? I should throw you out of my condo, you 7-year-old hussy. How dare you? This year, I'll be looking at another video game system I got as a child for Christmas. The Sega Master System 2. Now, this was not widely available, and not many people purchased it.
But Patrick, I want you to play the Turbografx.
Denise, I already did one Turbografx Christmas video. I don't want to do another one.
Oh, please, Patsy-Watsy, play the Turbografx.
No, Denise, I am not going to play the Turbografx 16. You know, I think it's about time I revisit this beloved system of mine with a look at a few games. The Legendary Axe was a Turbografx 16 launch title, and a good action platformer that showed off the potential of the new system. It was pretty successful, and was even one of the few games to get its own commercial. Really? That's so interesting! A year later, Legendary Axe 2 was released, in 1990. The ever-important story. You are Prince Sirius, who loses a battle for the kingdom to his brother Prince Zack. He didn't just lose the kingdom, he lost his clothes. He's given a sword, but his brother could have also given him some pants at least. I can't tell if Sirius is supposed to look like Conan the Barbarian or an underwear model. Like the original, the player has to slash his way across several levels and many baddies, with some platforming elements thrown in for good measure. Unlike the first game where you're armed with only an axe that happens to be legendary, in this game there are 3 different weapons that can be attained and used to savage enemies like zombies and scary clowns with claws. The sickle and chain is the weakest weapon, but has the longest range of attack and the ability to aim diagonally. The sword has a medium strength and a medium range. Finally, the axe has the shortest range, but is the strongest weapon of the 3. It's not required to be used though, and doesn't even appear until the 2nd level. So I'm not sure why this game also carries the Legendary Axe moniker. Each weapon's strength and range of attack can be leveled up throughout the game, and there are even magic bombs that can be collected and used. Yes, they haven't discovered Dockers yet in this timeline, but incendiary devices can be found everywhere. Your life meter can also be increased via power-ups in the stages, which is essential since this is a very challenging game. The stream of enemies is pretty constant, and some will give you trouble, like the large skeleton warriors, and even the zombies who can split into pieces and still spit at you. Ugh. The platforming areas the game contains is a nice change of pace, but can be a nuisance, especially since there are spots where a mistimed jump or bumping into an enemy can knock you all the way back down, forcing you to start your ascension anew. This wouldn't be so bad if the levels didn't also have a time limit. So get your beefy barbarian body moving. Huh, alliteration on Christmas. Fortunately, the controls are very responsive. Attacks are quick and can be done in succession easily. The jumping also feels good, as your character can jump very high if need be, although it is somewhat momentum based for distance. And if you happen to land on enemies, you inflict damage on them instead of being damaged yourself. How do you like that for a change? Legendary Axe 2 shows off the visual capabilities of the Turbografx quite well. Character and enemy sprites are big and well defined, especially the boss characters, like this creepy doll and the little person swinging a ball and chain. And just look at that little person moving around. It's just one example of the very good animation this game shows off. The backgrounds of the several levels all vary a good deal, and they all have a specific atmosphere attached to them. And many of the enemies are level specific, like this cool skeleton dinosaur that crashes through the wall to attack you. Yeah, he's gonna kick you. And let's not forget the well-constructed and moody soundtrack, which offers a different theme on every level, and it will surprise you just for how creepy it can be at times. Legendary Axe 2 isn't an easy challenge by any means. The challenge isn't totally unfair though, and you are even given a few continues if you lose all your lives. Overall, Legendary Axe 2 is a very fun and well-produced Turbografx title, and it's one of the better action games that was released for the system. Well, forgive the fact that it has absolutely nothing to do with the first game, outside of a protagonist who also is undressed. Now, could someone help Sirius out with an Old Navy gift card, a bathrobe, something?
I always loved Legendary Axe. Is there anything legendary about you, Pat?
Well, some people like my hair.
I think you should play Blazing Lazers. It's a shooter. It's what the system is known for.
I don't think it's proper for you to tell me what to do in my own video.
Oh, pretty please, Patsy Watsy. It'll make me happy.
No, I am not going to play Blazing Lazers, an early shooter released for the Turbografx 16. You know, Denise, you never really filled out that jacket as much as I thought you would. What? Blazing Lazers, an early Turbografx shooter and a flagship title that really shows off what the console is capable of. You take control of the Gunhead ship, which is a name apparently the programmer's 4-year-old son chose. Who cares what the story in a shooter is? Let's look at the gameplay. Blazing Lazers is a sterling example of what makes shoot-'em-ups fun. You want different weapons and power-ups? This game's got you covered. There are 4 different primary weapons: Photon Blaster, Power Wave, Field Thunder, and the Ring Blaster. They can be attained and switched off by collecting the Roman numeral orbs in the stages. They can also be powered up to multiple degrees by attaining more than one of the same type of weapon orb. So if you prefer the Field Thunder and want to kick ass with it, collect a few of the number 3 orbs and you're in business! There are 4 secondary power-ups to help you tear through enemies: homing missiles, shields, multi-body, which is a drone ship, and full fire, which will max out your primary weapon's power. What weapon and power-ups you choose to play with is really up to you and your play style, so have a blast experimenting. Get it? Blast? You're shooting and blasting stuff in space, where no explosions can actually occur, so maybe you can't actually have a blast? Speaking of explosions, you can also attain and use a limited number of cluster bombs, which can do mucho damage on the screen. So what exactly makes Blazing Lazers so great? Well, it does everything a shooter is supposed to do. Besides the fantastic weapons available, the swarm of enemies presents a constant but suitable challenge. The scrolling backgrounds are well drawn and fantastic, the boss fights are fun, and the game never lets up, especially since there's no slowdown to be seen. With the pace of the game and all that is thrown at you, that is no small feat for the time. You'd expect that in an arcade game, but for a home console in 1989, it's incredible to behold. You need good controls for a successful shooter, and in Blazing Lazers, it delivers. You can deftly dodge and make sure nothing touches your ship's hitbox with relative ease, even with multiple projectiles coming your way. And the game even gives you the option of changing your ship's speed with the select button. It's a cool feature that definitely comes in handy. What else makes Blazing Lazers stand out as a great shooter? Its constant feedback reward system. When you take out some enemies and background targets, which also fire at you at times, you can collect these floating purple gel balls which will steadily increase the power of your primary weapon, the more of them you collect. So the game will have you constantly firing, dodging, and attaining power-ups, all at the same time. It's a very fun and very addicting gameplay design. And while you're firing away during this shooter extravaganza, you'll listen to a rocking soundtrack which accentuates the action quite well and will get your adrenaline pumping. Well, as much as it can get pumped for a shoot-'em-up. As with most shooters, the difficulty largely depends on your reaction speed and how well you play the genre, but the game does a good job of helping you out and keeping it somewhat fair. While the majority of shooters will have you die on a single hit or touch, in Blazing Lazers your ship's weapon level will get downgraded on each hit until you reach the most basic level, and then you'll face death. but you can always build your weapons back up along the way. So it's a great give and take system that the developers utilized here. And if you die, it's not like some other shooters where you might as well reset the game after a certain point. Rather, you'll have a fighting chance to build your ship's power level back up to survive. I cannot say enough about Blazing Lazers. It's not just one of the best shooters on the Turbografx 16, but it's one of the best shooters of both the 8 and 16-bit era, and easily one of the best games released on the system. If you like shooters at all and have not yet checked out this game, run, don't walk, to wherever you can to get it. Then have a blast! Damn, there I go again. Have to remember science. Alright, one last game. I think we should examine the biggest franchise on the Turbografx 16. I, of course, am referring to Bonk.
No!
Well, what's wrong with Bonk?
I think we should play Battle Royale.
Battle Royale? Why would we play that?
We used to play it together when we were little. That would be so sweet of you.
Look, I do not want to play Battle Royale. It's a game that I don't have a choice, do I? Fluffernutter. Battle Royale was the only wrestling game released for the Turbografx 16. Being that I was a huge wrestling fan as a kid, I went out and bought it, the Turbo Tap, and an extra controller just so I could play the game with friends. And boy was that a mistake. So in Battle Royale you are offered two modes, either a single match or a tournament mode where you face successive matches against different opponents. The problem is that these matches are all terrible. Let's go back to the title screen where a buxom blonde newscaster tells you to select a wrestler. Each one has a catchphrase and varying levels of speed and power. There is Mongo Khan, Sumo Master, the Meat Eater, the Executioner, and Spitfire Spike. These aren't just bad names, these are names that you hear when you watch a TV show and see characters watching a wrestling show on their own TV show. In other words, a lazy lack of creativity. Both the gameplay and controls are atrocious. You quickly learn, as a young Pat did, that this really isn't a wrestling game, but a fighting game with punching and kicking attacks only. In the wrestling world, a battle royal is when wrestlers try and throw each other over the top rope until only one wrestler remains. That's fine, but it's not a traditional wrestling match. If this was a single feature of a larger wrestling game, that would be fine, but this is the entire game! So all you do is mash buttons and beat down your opponent until they fall to the ground, upon which time you can then pick them up and attempt to heave them over the top rope. That is the entire game. Besides when you pick your opponent up to toss them out of the ring, there are absolutely no other wrestling moves you can do. Let me repeat, no wrestling moves in a wrestling game. What? In tournament mode, you start off with boring one-on-one matches and eventually build up to boring 2- and 3-on-1 matches, at which point the game will become next to impossible, since the computer opponents will just smartly surround and button mash you to death, giving you little chance to fight back. This wouldn't be a total disaster if it wasn't for the fact that the controls are god-awful. You are given 6 striking attacks and 1 special move, also a strike, which are accomplished by hitting a combination of button 1, button 2, and the select button. So if you want to do the secondary high, medium, or low strikes, I don't know why you would, you have to take your hand off the control pad and hit the select button in order to accomplish it. Why not use the run button that sits next to button 1 and 2 at least? Or better yet, stick with only 3 attacks and not 6! What, did they think they were making Street Fighter? Oh, excuse me, Fighting Street. What makes this game even more of a train wreck is the fact that in Japan on the PC Engine, wrestling fans were enjoying the influential and revolutionary Fire Pro Wrestling series, which featured multiple playing modes, actual wrestling moves, and besides a large roster of real wrestlers, the game series utilized a deep and well thought out control scheme. Is Battle Royale all bad? Yeah, pretty much. But I do like the ridiculously goofy voice samples, including the one when a wrestler gets tossed, which I admit does make me chuckle. There is also an insane character selection screen where you get to take control of your manager and beat the crap out of the other managers to get to the wrestler you want to select. And I applaud the game designers for even attempting such a crazy thing that I have never seen before or since. But beyond those fleeting moments, Battle Royale is an absolute debacle with almost no redeeming qualities, and stands out as one of the few horrible games on the Turbografx 16. My friends took one look at this game and said, "No, that's quite okay, I'll pass." How could they be bothered when I couldn't even play this turd? Little Pat wants his allowance money back! And that does it for my Turbografx review roundup. I want to thank Denise for dropping by and helping out with the video.
My pleasure, Patrick. You know, this makes me want to play my own Turbografx. You think I could borrow a game or two?
Sure, I don't think that would be a problem.
Alright, how about, Soldier Blade? Or, let's say, Magical Chase?
Magical Chase? Are you sure you want that one?
Mm-hmm. I'll even let you keep your jacket, as long as you let me keep the game for a while.
But Magical Chase, that's the rarest Turbografx game there is. And it's worth like $2,000. And Rob gave it to me for Christmas. Magical Chase? Rob, you actually got me Magical Chase, the holy grail of Turbografx collecting, the one game I was looking for? Oh, Rob, I can just hug you! Okay. No, I don't think it's such a good idea. Then again, it is just a game.
Sucker.
Tis the season for forgiveness and charity towards all. Merry Christmas, everyone! Then again, it is just a game. What are you doing?